They say that there's a light at the end of every tunnel. What if that light leads you back to darkness? Is the light real or just a cruel joke played by fate? This is the story of a woman who found out the hard way. Stay tuned to the very end, my dear viewers. This is a story of betrayal, despair, and healing. Once upon a time, in a quaint little town nestled between rolling hills and a sparkling lake, there lived a young woman named Eleanor. Eleanor was known for her infectious laughter and a heart as warm as the summer sun. Her friends often teased her about her daydreams, which revolved around finding true love and settling down in a cozy cottage with a picket fence. Little did they know that their teasing would soon become a reality. One day, a dashing young man named Marco entered the town. He was a successful businessman who had come from a distant city to oversee a new project. From the moment their eyes met, Eleanor and Marco felt an instant connection. They began spending more and more time together, exploring the nearby countryside, sharing their dreams and aspiration. Marco was everything Eleanor had ever dreamed of: charming, handsome, and ambitious. He made her feel like the only girl in the world. Soon, he proposed to her and she happily accepted. Their engagement became the talk of the town. Everyone was envious of Eleanor, believing herself to be the luckiest woman alive. But Eleanor's joy knew no bounds. She couldn't wait to start her new life with Marco. He had promised to return from abroad in a few months with a surprise for her, a surprise she would cherish forever. Every day when she sat at their usual table in a small cafe, waiting for him, a deep sense of longing and anticipation filled her heart. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months, yet Marco was nowhere to be seen. Eleanor began to worry. Where was he? Had he forgotten about her? Doubts started to creep into her mind. Doubts that threatened to destroy the happiness she had been so eagerly anticipating. As the days dragged on, rumors started spreading through the town like wildfire. People whispered that Marco had married another woman while in the foreign land. The thought of Marco with another woman sent a shiver down Eleanor's spine. One particularly bleak afternoon, as rain poured down mimicking her tears, Eleanor found herself sitting alone in the cafe. Suddenly, a piece of paper fell from Marco's letter that he had sent her 6 months ago. It was a plane ticket. The date on it was yesterday's date. Clutching the ticket and the ring Marco had given her, Eleanor broke down. She felt foolish for waiting all this time, for believing in Marco's empty promises. As the weight of her foolishness pressed down on her, Eleanor felt a surge of anger. The next day, she went back to the cafe, pulled out the remaining letters from Marco and set them on fire. With each letter she burned, she cursed Marco's name, vowing to never love again. She hated him for shattering her dreams and taunting her with false hopes. The pain in her chest grew with each passing day. Eleanor couldn't understand why she was suffering. She had done nothing wrong. Yet as the weeks turned into months, a strange calm began to settle over her. Although her heart ached, she stopped crying. One evening, as the sun cast long shadows across the town, an elderly widower named Thomas found himself at the same cafe. He had often seen Eleanor there and felt drawn to her melancholic beauty. Hesitantly, he approached her, offering kind words and a listening ear. Eleanor, surprised by his gentle nature, shared her story with him, pouring out the pain and anguish she had kept bottled up for so long. When she finished speaking, Thomas sat quietly for a moment, contemplating how to help her. Finally, he spoke in a soft, soothing voice. "My dear Eleanor, I see you keep this chair for someone who won't return. Why don't you share it with those who are here? The only constant in life is change. Your feelings of today will change tomorrow. So don't waste your precious time waiting for a love that has already died. His words were like a balm to her wounded soul. Eleanor realized that Thomas was right. She had allowed her grief and anger to consume her, blinding her to the beauty that still existed in the world. Determined to move forward, Eleanor started taking small steps each day. She began going for walks in the park, meeting up with old friends and pursuing the hobbies she had neglected. One afternoon, Thomas visited her at the cafe again. He brought with him stories of his late wife and humorous tales from his travels. Eleanor found herself laughing for the first time in months. It was a hesitant, fragile laugh, but it was a start. Over the following weeks, Thomas became a regular fixture in Eleanor's life. He never pushed her to move on, but his presence and stories brought a sense of normalcy to her days. He was a patient and understanding friend, always ready to lend a helping hand or a shoulder to cry on. Gradually, the cafe became a place of healing and friendship rather than heartache and loss. One day, while sipping her tea and listening to Thomas's stories, Eleanor felt a warmth spread through her chest. It wasn't the love she had for Marco, but something different, something pure and comforting. She realized she had found a true friend in Thomas, someone who had seen her at her lowest point and accepted her without judgment. As the seasons changed and the cafe bustled with activity, Eleanor knew she was ready to move on. She still thought of Marco sometimes, but it was with indifference rather than the consuming love that had once defined their relationship. The wound in her heart had healed, leaving behind a scar that would forever remind her of her strength and resilience. One breezy afternoon, Eleanor and Thomas were seated at their usual table when a group of tourists walked in. They were loud and boisterous, their laughter echoing through the cafe. Among them was a young man with a familiar face. It was Marco. He had returned to the town after all these years. Time had changed him, etching lines of weariness onto his face and a hint of sadness in his eyes. He looked around, searching for something or someone. When their eyes met, Marco's face lit up with recognition. He stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "Eleanor," he whispered, his voice hoarse with emotion. "I've come back for you." For a moment, Eleanor felt the old emotions resurfacing, the love, the longing, and the pain. But she quickly pushed them away. She had come too far to let Marco pull her back into the darkness. With newfound strength in her voice, Eleanor replied, "You're too late, Marco. I'm no longer waiting for you." She turned to Thomas, a gentle smile gracing her lips. "And besides, I have someone who's always here for me." Marco's face crumpled in anguish. He tried to speak, but Eleanor held up a hand, silencing him. She didn't hate him anymore, but she wasn't willing to give him another chance either. In that moment, she realized that some doors close not because we don't want them to, but because we deserve better. The light at the end of the tunnel, although initially appearing as a beacon of hope, had turned out to be a cruel trick of fate. Yet Eleanor had emerged from the darkness stronger and wiser. Life had dealt her a heavy blow, but she had picked up the pieces and rebuilt herself. She had learned that love doesn't always have a happy ending, but it also doesn't die. It simply changes form. The love she once had for Marco had transformed into a deep bond of friendship with Thomas. As the years passed, Eleanor and Thomas's friendship continued to grow. They were a familiar sight in the cafe, their laughter mingling with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. The pain of the past had faded into a distant memory, replaced by the comfort of companionship and the quiet joy of simply being present in the moment. Eleanor knew that although Marco might have broken her heart, life had given her a second chance at happiness, this time in the form of a beautiful friendship. We hope you enjoyed this emotional tale of love, loss, and the healing power of friendship. If you want to watch more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, World of Wonderful Stories. And please hit the bell icon to get notified whenever we post a new story. We would also appreciate it if you could leave us a comment below with your thoughts on the story. Your feedback is very important to us. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to bringing you more wonderful stories in the future.